increase college and career readiness, what is your main idea around how to do that?
I mean, there's two themes. I mean, college and career readiness isn't like what happens in 12th grade. Let's measure what's happens in 12th grade. It's about what happens up until they're graduating. So it's really K through 12 coherency, but it's also being really clear from a district perspective, a school site perspective, about what we are offering around career and college readiness and where the pathways are. I've seen too many instances where there's a really energetic principal or teacher that puts together an excellent program, but when that teacher leaves or is moved to another site, the program dies. We have to have real commitment and also learning across sites so that we can expand what is working and get the resources to grow that those kinds of programs.
Thank you. The second question here says, what are some ideas you have on building representation of staff to reflect students?
Again, I'm actually quite interested in career pathways, and I've heard in visiting high schools, I've heard a real appetite among our high school students to have apprenticeship opportunities, internship opportunities, to feel the real world experience of not just classroom learning, but to start connecting their curiosity about professions to what's happening while they're in high school, not just imagining afterwards. So I'd really like to build out opportunities for our high school students to try out some things, even if they're not fully committed to one pathway or another.
I'm going to hold you to this question though. Building representation of staff to reflect students.
Okay, yeah, so this was the first, like, building the pipeline, but yeah, recruitment, we have to pay our staff better as part of it. We have to be an employer that is desirable and actively demonstrating that we are supporting and investing in our workforce. And I'm very interested in different ways to be more representative among our staff of the community that we're in and the student body, absolutely.
Thank you. Any more questions?
From the audience.
From the audience, yes, in the front there.
Sorry, I didn't get this.
Please go for it.
Surprise question.
Would you support closing or consolidating schools due to possible declining enrollment in the next 2 years?
Oh, I don't want to go there. I'm not ready to go there, and this is why. Because we know that 30%, we have 30% of kids are not going to SFUSD. I am much more interested in spending the time to build up our district and to do positive communications, to invest in the kind of programming that our families and our students want to see and that our educators want to deliver, rather than jumping to conclusions that we may hopefully not need to get to. So that is not where my head's at all. I'm much more focused on how do we build up what we've got. What I've been grappling with is our students' learning space is our educators' workspace. And I've been hearing loud and clear that the working conditions that our educators are experiencing are not sustainable. And so I'm much more interested in figuring out how to refocus our resources in an effective way so we can build out more positive outcomes.
Time for one more? These don't get easier, just FYI.
They didn't start out easy.
Yeah, you won't. How can students and families be prepared to be able to buy their own home?
Should I solve homelessness too? Yeah, I guess. So really, like, this goes along with career and college readiness. And so what we're seeing right now is we've got great, excellent graduation rates, not so excellent career and college readiness rates. And so, back to the investments around our academics, our enrichment, and so forth, our kids need to be graduating with agency. and graduating to be prepared to participate in the workforce here in the Bay Area, which is a really generally pretty vibrant workforce. I mean, I've been talking to labor and trades, and they are very, very interested in developing apprenticeship programs, internship programs. Those are well-paid jobs that we have people waiting, organizations waiting to partner with us. Same with business partnerships. So, I mean, having our kids ready to participate in the workforce in a positive way is a big step forward, would be a big step forward.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Can we hear it for Commissioner Motamedi?
Encourage Lainie to have a closing statement, just so you can wrap up your thinking, because we do have about another 5 minutes left.
We're ahead of schedule.
Well, I think it'll be a good way for you to kind of, if you need to go back and fill in one of your response or a closing statement would be great.
I'm just reviewing the questions. What I would say is our district has a lot of work to do to really change our culture, so we are not just saying, but we're demonstrating we're operating in service of our students and our educators. I feel like I've walked into a building that's had a lot of deferred maintenance, whether it's fiscal responsibility, making, structural budget decisions that need to be made, but also investing in curriculum and instruction and supporting our educators so that they can do the job, doing things like providing early interventions for our students. And so a lot of the questions that you raise are questions that I've been grappling with and that are certainly not areas of my expertise. And in this job, I am really leaning on developing relationships and understanding of our really broad community that is SFUSD, so we can be representative and can be stronger. Like I like to say our superpower, SFUSD's superpower is we are comfortable with discomfort. Like you cannot exist in this district without being able to cope with discomfort. And that's certainly true as a Board of Education Commissioner, but I'd like to use that for good rather than for ill. Like discomfort doesn't need to be that we're like breaking things apart. I would like to move into the space of communications where we're having uncomfortable conversations, but we're doing in a way where we're building this district up. It desperately needs our attention to work together to center around our students and what they need so that they can be thriving. So I would just like to say that, and I would like to say my door is open. I am very, very open to having further conversations and learning from you all. There's a lot of knowledge in this room.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lainie. I'll get your name right soon.
Lainie,
Your last name. All right, we're gonna have a little transition here. Our next sitting commissioner is actually in the audience, and it's Ann Sue. So, Ann, just a reminder that you have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then when we ask the questions, you have 2 minutes to respond to each question. There will be a 5-minute Q&A, questions from the audience, and if there's time, we'll have a closing statement from you. All right? So the first question.
Opening statement.
Opening statement. She just jumps into it.
I just want to get into the questions. Go ahead, Ann.
Good evening. It's so wonderful to see you all. I met many of you on Zoom before. It's so wonderful to see you in person. My name is Ann Shu. I am short, so I'm going to stand up. I am the only immigrant and business person on the school board right now, and running as well. I immigrated from China when I was 11 years old. I did not speak any English when I landed in Erie, Pennsylvania, a town of 250,000 people with 40 Chinese. We were all friends, so we knew there were only 40. I learned English in about 6 months, but then really Americanized to the culture. It took about 4 years. I went on to Penn State for undergraduate and then came to Berkeley for graduate school. I studied engineering and later also have my MBA from Berkeley. I spent 25 years of my professional life working in the high-tech sector, including founding my own company in 1999 in the height of the dot-com bubble, AAA.com, and ran that for 13 years before finding a new challenge, and I made yogurt for 5 years, another company making yogurt. I was not involved with schools or government or anything until the pandemic. Many of you know I have twin boys who were at Galileo, and one of them in particular did not do very well during the pandemic. And I jumped in and saw the school board was not trying to fix that problem, but playing politics, and I jumped into the recall and helped recall 3 commissioners and was appointed by the mayor as a replacement. On the board, I have been trying to push for 3 priorities: student achievement and academic excellence, safe schools, and fiscal discipline and operational excellence for our school district. And those continue to be my priorities going forward.
Thank you, Anne. So we'll proceed with the first question. Asian Americans feel unheard, unseen, and unsafe. Where do Asian American students and families fit into discussions around equity?
The word equity, to me, to be honest, was a new concept to me when I stepped onto the board of education. In Silicon Valley private sector, we didn't talk about this very much. And I think everybody knows that I said some things maybe 3 months ago that showed some of my ignorance in this aspect. But what I understand, and since I've had many conversations with the communities that were affected by my comments earlier, and since then I've come to understand that equity is really helping the ones who need help. But on the flip side, I think that we should not ignore the ones who do not need help. We do have 30+% Asians in our school district. Many of them are considered model minorities, which is a myth. I think they should not be ignored while we try to help the students who do need more help. So I think me being here is representing the Asian Americans, and for me to be vocal and to keep reminding people that we want to serve all students in the school district, including the Asian American students.
Thank you, Anne. The second question. In a district where Asian Americans make up 36% of the student enrollment, there are approximately 15 Asian Americans out of 117 site principals across all levels. How can a district prioritize the active recruitment and hiring of highly qualified Asian American teachers and administrators?
I have 2 specific suggestions. One is we do have a teacher's pathway, higher education pathway, and I believe there's only one at Lincoln High School. We actually need to broaden that and have it at all of the high schools if we can, and really teach students, high school students, what it is that this profession offers. And that's one specific. 2 is, I come from the private sector. In the technology field, I think our career pathways can use a lot of people from the private sector who actually have the computer science knowledge, to have the engineering and science. They are professionals in this field. And I have to tell you that many of them, by the time they're in their 40s and 50s, are a little bit tired of the rat race of their industries, and I think we can recruit some of them to become teachers. Because you as a computer programmer at 40 are not going to compete with one that's 22. Okay? So I think there are better opportunities for these kinds of professionals to come to our CTE pathway and teach our high school students what it is any profession is about. So those are two specific questions that we can recruit more teachers. Administrators, I know that many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, there used to be a program that identifies some promising teachers and assistant principals and have them groomed to be administrators, and we definitely need to resume that.
Question number 3. We know that the African American community has the AAAA office that provides resources and support to families. What ideas do you have to provide the AAPI community more resources in the district, given the size of this population?
I encountered this issue as president of Galileo PTSA, where I was floored to know that there was no family liaison at Galileo High School. And we had 48% Chinese speaking and 25 or 26% Spanish speaking student population, or at least their families, their parents spoke those languages, and we had no family liaisons in Chinese or Spanish. And I found out that there was one person who used to speak both Chinese and Spanish. He left, and then we just never replaced him. That is outrageous. I think I already proposed that to the superintendent, that any school with any, let's say, X percentage of population, student population, that is of whatever language, it could be 10%, it could be 20%, whatever percent that is reasonable, must have a family liaison in that language, who speaks that language. Okay? I think that should be a policy going forward for SFUD, so that we can connect with those families much better. I think family involvement is of utmost importance. Schools cannot be relied on to solely to educate our students. Families, parents are kids' first teachers. We need to engage them.
Okay, 4th question. Over a third of ELs or of Asian descent. These are many of our most vulnerable students and families. How will you allocate funds to prioritize decreasing the EL achievement gap, which has persisted for decades?
There's a lot of achievement gaps that we need to decrease in SFUSD, and ELs is one of them. As Lainie, Commissioner Motamedi mentioned earlier, we are for the first time tying our funding. We are for the first time setting goals for the school district. From what I've heard, we never actually set goals, specific ones, that we move the whole district towards. So we are setting goals, and we will then tie the budget to those goals. I come from business, this is what we do. I'm horrified that it hasn't been done this way before, but it will be, and I have been a champion of fiscal discipline and accountability, meaning we sometimes just feel good spending money, helping EL population, the African American population, whatever population, but we actually don't measure whether we have actually helped them by spending this money. We just feel good that we spend the money. No, we should feel good when we have actually helped them, when the money spent has actually had results. And that has not been, and believe me, I am holding the superintendent and all the staff accountable for this kind of results-oriented achievement. So closing the EL gap is one of them, but there are many other gaps we need to close.
Okay, the 5th question. We are seeing a disturbing trend of students fleeing to other districts and private schools. How will you increase the rigor and opportunities for our district's high-performing students? What actions will you take to recruit and retain academically oriented students?
First is to keep low criteria-based, and perhaps creating more of them if the demand is such that we need to create more rigorous programs so that students who want that rigor can have it. And the high school task force that we've approved is now being assembled to look at our high school portfolio to see where the resources are distributed and perhaps redistribute them as needed. And perhaps one of the options is to create more Lowell, more SODA, and then have AP and honors programs everywhere and not just concentrated in a couple or 3 places. I think another one is culture of just do your job well. You know, I have little patience with incompetence. And I have to say that I have found spelling, grammar mistakes on board, agenda items. We work for a school district. I should not be the one finding these mistakes. We need to hold everybody accountable, and therefore our students know that they need to pay attention and do well in their schooling. How can they do that if our staff is not holding ourselves to higher standards? So we need to demand higher standards, and I think we'll be happy that students will rise to them, all of our students.
Thank you, Ann. Now is our 5 minutes for our Q&A.
Questions, anybody on the cards? Anyone? Otherwise I can throw a couple of these ones. Going once, going twice. Yes, Ms. Wong? Yes, you are.
So, Commissioner Sues, oftentimes we see politicians back down when their platform sometimes confronted or challenged. And so, this question is wondering, how will you continue to champion for the AAPI community in spite of the difficulties that you may find yourself currently in, or any other politicians? How will you continue to champion for our AAPI population?
Good thing I'm not a politician, so
You're
I
gonna
do not
leave it
back
alone.
down. No, I was asked recently a question similar to that about political pressure, and my response was that I actually do not feel political pressure because I don't have ambitions to go on to higher office. I'm here by chance, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm gonna do the job that I'm put here to do. So if I actually did something wrong, first I will apologize, and then I may take other necessary action. But if I didn't, why should I submit to any pressure? So, answer is I'm not gonna succumb to pressure.
Okay, I have one here. What educational approaches must the district implement to prepare students for the 21st century challenges?
Well, first we need to teach them how to read. So actually one of my emphasis is K through 3. And I'm so glad that one of our main goals is 3rd grade literacy. Okay? And then secondly is the high school, college, and career program. I have twin boys, fraternal twins, polar opposites. One at Galileo, one at Lowell now. One is very academically inclined. The other one has more diverse interests, including academics and sports and everything else. So I think we should encourage all of our students to develop their best strengths. Okay? Raise them with their strengths was an advice that I had when the twins were 10 months old. I was stuck on an airplane with 2 crying babies. And a parent, a grandma, I asked her for advice, and she said to raise them with their strength. And that's what we should do for all of our students.
And one more we heard earlier. Would you support closing or consolidating schools due to declining enrollment in the next 2+ years? Why or why not?
I think I may have mentioned a little bit earlier that fiscal discipline and operational excellence is one of my priorities. when I got on the board, I heard a lot of talk about we need more funding. We need more funding from federal, from state, from local, from philanthropic organization. I want to say stop asking for more money until we know that the money that we already have is well spent and effectively spent. We have $1 billion budget. We're not that poor. So we need to examine whether we're spending our money effectively before we explore different options, including closing schools. So first, audit where our money is going and whether that money is being well spent and getting the results. That's most important as well.
I believe we have time for a closing statement. Ms. Bond?
Yes, we do, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you. Great.
Again, I feel like I need to join this. I think I am. I'm as a USD person and Asian, I can be part of this AAAA. I am so happy that I can represent the Asian American administrators and teachers in our school, but also everybody else. But when you look at me, you do see. And I'm not shy in voicing my opinions. I believe that we should support all students, including those that need the most help. And fortunately, those are minority of students, but we should not forget the majority because the school district is here to serve all students. And that is what I'm here to do, is to make sure that we do serve all students. So I look forward to working with all of you going forward.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Commissioner Sue.
We're gonna take a 3-minute break, because I know some of you have been sitting for a while, so feel free to get up and stretch, use the restroom, there's water, and our next candidate is getting ready. So we'd love to have you come back, not go away, come back.
We're locking the doors.
Don't